Whoa!
We
are we live?
We are once again live. It is Wednesday night at 6:30. Where else would you rather be apart from spending on, right?
Some notable omissions today. Right? I think we've been left off the leash twice now.
Well, this is one of those things. I mean, if you do it twice in 4 weeks, is it really what happens for it?
This is the standard. We're the standard now, the three of us. How you going, Simo?
Good, mate. Good. It's good to be on. I'm often at this time of night talking to clients, so it's actually good to jump on here and actually be looking at some of these and answering some of these questions live instead of thinking about it as I'm watching along as a passenger. So no, it's great. Good to be here,
mate. There was you got a bit of a without warning on Monday.
Yeah.
And we spoke about and by the way, Simo, you'll be on the Q&A. You're like, dude, I'm busy then. I'm like, I'm sorry, man. You have to move that around. But here you are, the man himself. So definitely being launched into stardom, buddy, with the new podcast season coming through and your numero uno with episode 1.
Yeah, that's it. Season 2, episode 1 launched. I actually had a good watch of it myself. I hadn't had a chance to look at it prior to the team there releasing it. So it was really good to have a watch of that. And no one likes their own voice and no one likes seeing themselves on camera, even though it's something we do quite a lot. But no, it was actually really good to sit there and listen back to it and to actually hear the story even if it's from myself telling the story. It was actually really good. So I'm hoping people are enjoying it, whether they're watching it on YouTube YouTube, or watching it on the podcast version. It's definitely a story you want to get your teeth into and have a good listen.
Mate, you're getting a few. So we've got Sammy Wynn in the house, evening all. Benny Hinton, you legend. I was a bit crook on Saturday morning, mate. I can tell you that right now. Kenty Herman, Beck Hinton, and also Benny Hinton there already all over that episode. So that's awesome, Simo.
Well, let's just jump in there, mate.
Episode 1 was great.
Yeah. Let's just say a quick thank you to those people who came out and joined us in Canberra Day. And I know that we had a bit of a ripper night down there on Saturday night. Was it Friday night or Saturday night down there? Must have been Friday.
That's the night it was, mate. I can't remember when. Mate,
I was home
Friday
in
night
bed early.
That's the story.
You didn't drink, mate. Dan, your internet is terrible, buddy.
Working on it.
Terrible. I don't know. You got to upgrade your subscription.
Got a bit of a storm coming through the Brisbane Gold Coast area, so that might be slowing your internet down there a little bit. I know we've got a little bit of rain here at the moment, but I think it's clearing up.
So we got so Anthea Lee Friday. Beck Hinton was in a world of hurt Saturday morning, and Benny, yes, Friday it was. Saturday was the recovery. Sammy Wynn, holy shit, Dave, listening to the podcast today on Lost for Words. I'm so glad I had shitty traffic on the drive home, so we could listen to it all. It was intense. Pay your internet bill, Dan. Yes, mate, you were frozen, and if I knew how to, I'd kick you out of the live, but I don't know how to do that. So,
hey, Sammy, thanks for that comment there. I'm glad you got to listen to it. Sort of glad for you that the traffic was shit, but I'm sure you would have kept playing it once you got home anyway. So. Yeah, well done on getting through that whole thing. It was probably one of the longer podcasts that we have done, just over an hour, I think it was, as opposed to
an hour.
Minutes. Yeah. Right. What do you mean an hour? Haven't you watched it yet, Dane?
Oh, it's on my to-do list. It is, okay. But I felt like because I sat with you for 6 months or whatever it was, 9 months. Hopefully I know it.
Yeah. Did give a bit of insight one night out at a restaurant, a little bit of a sneak preview.
Yeah, you did, and it scared me actually because I didn't see you in that light. I saw you as a property guy. So when you did tell me some of those stories, I was like, "Holy fuck!" I'll make sure that
all these different people all our different clients that come through as well. Until we get to know them a little bit better, initially they're just same thing. They're ADF members that we know nothing about until we start hearing about their stories, and especially for those ones that may have had some little bit of hardships and turmoil in their lives, and to be able to help them out with their property portfolios and get them going is phenomenal, especially when we get to know those background stories as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, yes, we are Axon. We're here to talk everything ADF housing, property, relationships, anything you want to talk about, throw it in the chat and we'll discuss it. We have had, obviously, Robin tomorrow, not with us tonight, and Dan, is obviously on the cheapest internet package you can get, trying to save his dollars, and now he's paying for that right now. So what's been going on in your world? Actually, Simo, what have you been up to this week?
Mate, this week, and especially the last 4 weeks, has been quite busy for me with the restructuring within Axon. As we keep growing, which has been talked about a lot within the podcast, as we keep growing, there's more and more people there that need training, which is quite a strong part of what I do, and especially now that I'm supervising all of the property specialists as well, a lot of extra work has gone into that in creating procedures and systems to keep all those guys on track, on the straight and narrow as it is. But yeah, just a lot of work in the last 4 weeks, creating all those systems and making sure the process is in place so that they all get trained to the same standard, so that they're all looking after all of our clients in the same manner, so that everything's reading off the same sheet of music, I guess you could say.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Dan, mate? What have you been doing this week?
Mate, apparently trying to unfuck my internet so the system bloody happened. I've now tried like 3 or 4 hotspots. By the way, ladies and gents, I can't see any commentary, so I'm not going to be responding to any of that stuff. But we'll see how we race through tonight. No, it's been it feels like it's been a pretty short week, mate, because I only came back from Canberra on Monday after spending a little bit of time down there visiting some family and friends. And then, mate, just spent Monday doing stuff. And then yesterday was my lovely bride's birthday. So I had a relatively quiet night, and she's an economist, as a lot of you might already know. So she was exceptionally excited to have a budget birthday this year, where she got the federal budget on her birthday, which made her the happiest person alive. I couldn't have organised it better myself. So thank you very much, ScoMo.
Thanks for organising that, Dan.
Yeah, that's odd. Which brings up, actually, Benny Hinton did just throw up a question there. I think, Noah, if you can bring that up, which is, yes, the budget. So there's a few little points out there directly related to housing. I don't know if you two were tracking. It got sent to me by the lovely Jess out there saying, hey, check these out. Which saw FLIDs be something that will be continued.
Yeah, so
there's another one.
10,000 slots for FLIDs, so first home loan deposit scheme, or the new home scheme that's out there. So I think that's a bloody brilliant scheme that they've brought out there. I think it provides what it needs to, because you go and get your first home loan deposit scheme, reduces your LMI, and it's sort of government backed from that perspective. But it's kind of no risk for the government, because if you then move out of that house before you've reduced your loan to value ratio down to 80% anyway, you're liable to pay the government back that LMI. So at the end of the day, it's a pretty bloody good scheme from them. They're getting all the great results from it, but they also sort of keeping it chill from that perspective.
Did you guys see the one, the new family home, because I've got it right here, new family home guarantee program. Simo, I'd love to hear what you take us on this. So it will help single parents buy a home. This program allows single parents with a household income of less than $125,000 to buy a home with a deposit of just 2%. 2%.
I was getting 3%, but 2%'s even smaller again.
The government guarantees the remainder of the deposit, and there will be 10,000 places available from the 1st of July as well. So that's a new scheme that's coming in. 2% deposits, mate. Like, maybe I'll become single. Go execute on that.
You've got a kid, so
that's what single parent. I'm 50% there.
Yeah,
but the other 50,
I actually think that's quite good. As long as those single parents are using it in that manner and they don't overextend themselves, because with only a 2% deposit, even with the government subsidising or taking care of them not having to pay the lender's mortgage insurance because they don't have that 20% deposit, they do still have a 98% loan that they need to service. So it's going to be higher in general than what most people's loans are going to be, because most people are going to have that 10% generally. So their loans are going to be smaller. So that one is going to have a bit of a higher serviceability requirement for them. But in general, though, if they can make those repayments, then power to them, as long as they can find a property in that price point that works for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think about that one, Dane?
oh mate, like I'm a traditionalist, right? Like I think of interest rates at 6% still and all that sort of stuff. So when I keep seeing this stuff, sometimes I think, fuck, like what? How low can things go? And I first hearing the 5% flids, I was like, wow, that is crazy, and they're going to guarantee the rest. And I hear 2, I'm just waiting for them to guarantee their actual deposit is the next thing, So I think it's a good initiative though. People getting into the housing market and becoming harder and harder and harder for people to get in there. So, especially if you're a single parent, like why not? I think it's a good initiative, really. What about you, buddy?
I think it'll be interesting to see how the banks treat it, because at least with the FLIDs, so the first home loan deposit scheme, which is kind of the same as FLIDs, right? But it's just for a single parent family. At least with FLIDs, there was a requirement generally for the banks to see a 5% genuine savings coming through from you. So that meant that the person had to turn up 5% gen savings, and then the bank would be all right. They'd be pretty well happy. And let's be honest, it was still a 95% loan, which had been around. The first home loan I got, I think, was a 96% loan or something like that. That was in the good old days when you could get 95% loans, interest only, roll in some of the costs associated with the purchase as well. So you get it nice and cheap from that perspective. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the banks treat it. I think in my mind, that'll be because a 2% deposit on a $600,000 house is like $30,000 that you've got to be able to pony up then. And then if you get the first homeowner's grant on top of that, you're 50% of the way there at least. Mm-hmm. So it really starts to make me wonder how the banks are going to start to scrutinize, because the lending out there at the moment is super hard to get money. Banks are being as tight and as devilishly in the detail as they possibly can be. So what are they going to look at these young families to make sure they're actually able to service the loan and they've been able to demonstrate their ability to save before they actually go and get that property? So the banks, let's see how they apply that one in short.
It's a usual, which we saw with Home Builder and stuff like that, right? Like there's a great initiative. Let's throw this out there. And the bank's like, well, fuck, how are we going to skin this?
Yeah.
So when they come in and
everyone speculates a little bit about how exactly it's going to work, but we just need to wait for that bank policy to come out to understand it fully.
Yeah. One of the things that I like about it is I know a few single family parents, and they've sort of reached out to me over the last little while. The thing that it's managed to achieve is a bit of a kick in the ass to those people who've been sitting there going I know I need to do something. I know I need to do something. I know I need to do something, but have done nothing for the last 2 or 3 years. Then all of a sudden there becomes this little bit of impetus where it says, hey, maybe you can actually do this a little bit easier than what you're expecting to. And it might just draw them out of the woodworks a little bit. And as we often see, Dane, when we're coaching, you might be a little bit closer than what you originally planned for being able to execute that.
Yeah. Nothing like having a plan. I think, too, there's a lot of urgency. I've got a client at the moment, Dan, who, has kind of got to the realization, so he's in his 50s, and he sort of got there and goes, oh, fuck. He goes, I'm not going to be able to stay in defence, whereas he's lived a good life in the DHA and RA life and, choosing his location to go live and all that sort of stuff. But now he's in a point where he's like, I don't actually have a roof. So he's on a bit of a turbocharge from that perspective. So his motivation there is the need, because defence aren't going to house him soon.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the old adage of it's not if you get out of the Defence Force, it's when you get out, because everyone gets out. Yeah. And be able to go forward from there. So that's interesting. What else was in there, Dane? What other interesting stuff?
Mate, just a lot of hellos, but I do want to jump into a question, actually, if we can raise that one up, which we did just see prior to jumping online through our great Facebook Messenger page.
Absolutely. That's shout out to Ash. I saw your message come in, mate, and I'm like, you know what? That is a belter question. No, I don't have a podcast on it yet. Yes, I do have a recording. The full recording is available. You can go and watch the training wherever you want on the internet, pretty much. But yeah, we might as well just talk about this for the masses. So I suppose I'll throw it at you first, Dane. What are the pros of staying in a DHA rental and saving versus buying our first property with young kids? I think was the final word.
Yeah, with young kids on a single income.
On a single income.
Yeah, please jump in if I've got that correct, because I'm going off my own brain. So when we sort of talk about it, and everyone is different, right? Like there's a lot of things, locations can dictate, so on and so forth. But the most valuable allowance or entitlement in a way is going to be one, your DHA or in your RA. Like I think a lot of people do take it for granted and go like, oh yeah, but I really want to get into my own house and nothing like going out and mowing my own lawn and, I'm going to water it and get it real good, all this sort of shit that goes on. But in the end, the numbers aren't there because if you think about it, if you're running out getting DOHAS Tier 1, and correct me if I'm wrong, Simo, I think it's $195 a month, the subsidy at Tier 1 now. Yeah, whereas if you're sitting in a DHA property and you're paying $250 a week and it's, $500 a week on the civilian market, you got defence paying $250 of it. So you're getting $1,000 a month, but you're going to give that up to chase $195. Like, do you know what I mean? Where I'm getting at, and also when you come to serviceability with the banks, you're going to look a lot stronger when they're going, oh, well, he only pays $250 a week. He has more discretionary income, or his RA, like all that sort of stuff does play a part in servicing. And, if you give that up to go jump into your own house to chase some entitlements, you're going to cripple yourself, I think. I think it's, don't give it up lightly. I think it's one benefit that people do overlook, and it's something they shouldn't give up lightly.
What about you, Simo?
Yeah, I agree. My whole time in 21 years in the military, I was either living in accommodation to start with, married quarters or RA, and I had absolutely no intention of ever trying to buy my own whole house while I was in the ADF for that exact reason. And if you're in one of those areas, say somewhere in Sydney, we saw some numbers today for someone who lives in Sydney, and the amount of rental assistance they get is phenomenal, and they have an amazing house that they're living in. For you to be able to buy something like that, it's $1 million+ sort of house and things like that. So the benefit far outweighs of receiving either being in a married quarter or receiving your RA. It far outweighs, in my mind, in my opinion, anything that you could ever be doing with the full spectrum available to you with DOHAS.
He had a banging spot too. So Simo and I, forever the Sherlock Holmes, we actually went and looked it up. Like, let's see what this guy, because he stuffed up his form in his defence. So he looked it up. He's on the water, mate. Overlooking. Like, holy shit.
We go out and live and say like Finger Wharf at Woolloomooloo or something like that.
Mate, he ain't going to be buying that, I'm telling you. So, and he's getting nearly $26,000 a year in RA.
Bloody brilliant.
Or do you want to get $2,400 in Tier 1? You know what I mean? Like that's real.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's one of those things. It comes down to it. Like, you need to assess it, because I've had some clients that are like, I really hate my married quarter. This place is shit. I really just want to move into my own house so I can screw some holes in the wall, put my photos up wherever I want to, and I don't want to have to bloody go out there and ask the question to the person who looks after my property. And I just said to these guys, and this was only a week or so ago, I was like, well, we've got two options. You can stay in a married quarter and pay $300 a week in rent, or you can go and buy your own home. It's going to cost you $800,000 to be in exactly the same location. Your mortgage repayments are going to be in the ballpark of like $1,100. And I was like, you know what? I'm probably happy staying in my married quarter, but this is the key, right? You can't just be like, hey, I'm going to now go and stay in my married quarter and fucking do nothing with that money. All the money that you would have been spending on rent or your mortgage now needs to be saved or put aside, or being directed towards you going and buying yourself another income-producing asset, another investment property, for example. Actually, I've gotten to this a lot more late. I don't even care what you go and do and what you go and put that money into, as long as it's something that's going to benefit you in the long term. Don't just go and get that extra $250 a week and shove it in your bloody savings account earning 0.5%. Go and make it work for you at that point in time, and don't waste the allowances that you're getting. Because when you get out at the end of the day, you're going to be paying market rent, or you're going to be paying your mortgage, or you're going to be bloody on the bones of your ass. And at the end, I would prefer people to work their asses off and learn to live without their allowances to begin with, so that when they transition out, they don't need their allowances and they're just used to living that lifestyle.
Yeah. It's a bit of a rude shock when you do your discharge and you're no longer receiving your RA and no longer eating your meals in the sergeant's officer's mess.
Simo, I was just having like a little bit of a giggle before. I was like, what, young Gunner Simpson down at Woodside Barracks getting his RBS 70 ready to bloody go out, and he's sitting in the old dungeon rooms that they've got down there on barracks, mate.
Yeah.
Simo, are you cooking your meals, are you, at the moment?
No, I don't. Mate. Yeah, first posting down there in Woodside, South Australia. RBS 70 and the Rapier. Don't no longer have the Rapier.
Yeah, they're gone, mate. I think the only Rapier that's left is out on display down there at Woodside at 16 ALR still these days. So
yeah.
Any good drills. What else? I can't see the chat. So if there is anything going on in the chat, Dane, I'm going to have to rely on you.
Oh, sorry, man. I thought you were just thinking it was
mate.
No,
I've got like where the chat box is, I've got like the white screen of death, and I've got like a little T-Rex. It's got these tiny little arms showing me that it's been an issue.
All right, let's hit it off then. So I'll get Deb Roethlisberger in the house, you absolute legend. CJ Wynn, hey blokes, what's the best Dohas lump sum? What's best, Dohas lump sum or leave it as the subsidy? Simo, I'll throw to you, mate.
That one's an interesting one because when you do take out your Dohas lump sum, you only get it at tier 1. So if you're at tier 2 or tier 3 and you've done your years there, your 8 or 12 years as a full-time member or 12 or 16 as a reserve, you're going to revert back to tier 1. You can take up a maximum of 4 years for your Dohas lump sum. So it doesn't turn out to be a significant amount. Some quick math. No, I'm not even going to try. It's about 10 grand, 10 or 11 grand. But you have to weigh up whether the money is more valuable to you as cash, which you can then put to your cash buffer, if that's what you need, or you want to have a little bit of reserve there, or weigh up whether it's going to be more beneficial to you just to let it ride and have it comes to you as subsidy. So you need to weigh up the amount of years you've done, whether you're actually going to hold that property as well. We are generally long-term buy and hold, whether you're actually going to have that property by the end of your period of service there or your period of subsidy as well to make a decision whether take that cash now or just hold it for the long run. But for me, unless I needed that extra $10,000 to sit in my bank account as a cash buffer and I might have been tight on cash beforehand, I would probably, in my sort of circumstances, I'd just let it ride because I'm going to have that property for a very long time.
Yeah. Simo, just for clarification, mate, just so for the listeners out there that haven't watched our sort of longer form training, can your Dohas lump sum be used towards your deposit?
No, unfortunately not. Your Dohas lump sum only gets paid to you once you receive your first subsidy payment. That is going to be after you've either settled on your land. If when you're building a property and settle on the land and use your Dohas subsidy there, you can kick it off there, or you can wait until the end of the build. You can actually keep getting certificates throughout the build as well to keep building up that subsidy. But you receive your Dohas lump sum when you receive your first subsidy, so not before you've actually settled on your land or your property.
Yeah, but and the reason I'm bringing up a couple of these is there seems to still be some confusion out there. So you can't use your Dohas lump sum towards your deposit for your own home generally. But the other thing is you can't actually get a Dohas lump sum if you've owned a property anywhere else in Australia, regardless of whether it's so I know we always talk about your entitlements will be there when you're ready to use them and just put them up on the shelf, right? But at the end of the day, your Dohas lump sum is the one thing that actually does disappear. It doesn't live there forever. If you bought another property anywhere, your Dohas lump sum disappears, so you can't use that. And I mean,
yeah, that's right. And you said whether it's an investment property or a house you've lived in, that negates the ability to take that.
You won't lose it though. Like you lose a lump sum the way it's delivered, but it is still there to be paid out in the periodically as per the rest of it. So
yeah, and I mean so you can still get it later on. You can only get it at those monthly increments, which you've got the option. You either take 4 years of monthly increments at tier 1 or you do it at your final tier. Up to you, really.
Yeah, that's a really good
point. What's your position on it, Dane?
Well, that last bit is mine. So if it's at tier 1, and that's you're not going to get your lump sum at anything else. It comes at tier 1, depending where I was in the chain. If I'm up at tier 3, I probably wouldn't. I'd keep it because yes, it can't form a part of your deposit and costs. It is technically worth more to me staying in the monthly increment because I'm then going to take those 4 years at tier 3, not tier 1. So, I don't think it really is a big loss to not get it, to tell you the truth, as a lump sum because you can get it and get it at a higher value.
Yeah.
So, absolutely.
And as you know, I'm all about the numbers, so that's my
number man. Let's try that one you had there, Noah, a bit earlier, just before Greg's. And Greg, we'll get to yours in a second. But the two Dohasses. I'm going straight back to Simo on this one. It's not often we get the great man in the room. And yes, Simo, the question. If you have two serving members, can you get 2 lots of Dohas entitlements on your own home? Can we double dip, mate? What do you think?
Yeah, this is what we fondly know as double Dohas, which is something that a lot of people don't know. So if you do have 2 ADF or 2 serving members, you can both take out Dohas on the same property, even if you're on different tier levels as well. So the way that it works is just say you've got one person on tier level 1, maximum subsidy they're going to get is $195 a month. If the other partner there was on tier 2 and you get your loan up high enough, maximum subsidy they can take is $293. The way that double Dohas works is that you add both of those together. So in that instance, it would be with tier 1, your subsidy limit's $300, tier 2 limit's $450. So that is $750,000. You'd have to be taking out a fairly substantial loan or being a very substantial property to have that size loan anyway. But what that means is that you then can get a subsidy based on that full amount instead of being limited to either $300,000 or $450. You can go all the way up to $750,000 loan that you're going to get paid a subsidy on, which is that $195 plus $293, which is just short of about $500. The way it then works is that they split that down the middle and each member gets half, regardless of what their subsidy or tier level is as well. So it's a really beneficial one, especially if you're only on 2 people on tier 1. It can be quite beneficial. Also works if you're on the higher tier levels, but you're going to have to be having a massive loan to be able to take advantage of that. So it may actually be beneficial to not use it sometimes.
What do you reckon, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, Simo's hit the nail on the head there with his last little statement. From my perspective, it's like you need to look at, okay, have we got one mortgage that's worth $400,000, and then is it worth waxing 2 Dohas loans on 2 Dohas subsidies on that? Because you only get it pro rata, right? So if you use double Dohas on that and then you split that loan in half, it's $200,000 each. You only get pro rata the amount on 400. So if you're tier 2, you might be down to $150 a month from a subsidy perspective. And then it's like, well, are you getting the biggest bang for buck, or can you use one on one property and then go and move into another property down the track? And oh my God, you get a second Dohas and a second property. Who knows?
Yeah, you want a pretty solid, solid loan to be able to get in the full entitlements. I think you're great there, Dan.
The way the prices are going in some of the locations.
It might be. You might have to use both, right? But yes, is it better to exhaust one and then keep the other one in your back pocket? That's the sort of thing. And it all comes down to having a plan. Noah, can we throw up Greg's? Greg, I'm really sorry, man. I know yours is quite a lengthy one, and I probably won't get through it. But, Dan, this will be a great one for you. So, Greg, Sheriff, I have 10 years left in the Defence Force, looking to settle in the one location. Have a boy with cerebral palsy. Hard to find a DHA home that caters to him. Looking to build a house that is suited to him and want to ensure my kid's future is secure. Sorry, mate, I don't have the end of that there.
That's right. Noah, can you put the rest of it in the private chat, please, mate? And I'll just read it off there. I don't know what the actual question is. That's why.
I think it's the last part of it. Looking for some advice.
Looking for some advice. Got it. No worries. Looking for some advice. Just how are you going to go ahead and do this? Greg, first things first, mate. I suppose looking to settle in one location, it's kind of depends on whether, from my perspective, whether that one location is where you're going to spend the next 10 years in defense as well. Because my gut instinct based on the rather emotional stuff that you're speaking about there, settling in one location, wanting to find a spot that's good for my boy with cerebral palsy, hard to find a DHA home that caters to him. I mean, there's probably dozens of people who are on the chat right now who can probably speak to, hey, yeah, it's very hard to find that DHA home, as we were sort of speaking about there. Looking to build a house that's suited to him and want to ensure my future kid's future is secure from an advice perspective. It sounds as though the property that you want to build right now is not necessarily linked to pure financial motives versus a lifestyle choice that you're trying to achieve there, which is the stability for your family, which is perfectly fine, mate. And I don't know where you are in Australia, but when we start talking about a lifestyle choice rather than a wealth creation choice, like you just need to start accepting that sometimes those beautiful lifestyle choices come at a cost, which is not the very best thing for you to do from a wealth creation perspective. And that's okay, because you're creating a life for your son, as you sort of speak about there as well, Greg. But mate, it depends. It depends on exactly where you're sitting at the moment, whether you are just doing your own home, whether you then, the next step after that is making sure that after you've created that nest for your family to be able to sort of grow in from that perspective, also then making sure the next step is making sure that his future is secure, needs to be through you creating assets that are going to be able to pay you an income after you leave the Defence Force. Because you're going to get your MSBS, you're going to transition out, and sure, you'll get that income coming into your life and you're going to have your house to live in, but you're going to need some more cash coming somewhere else, especially if you want to be able to look after the young fella.
Yeah.
What about you, Dave?
Yeah, mate, yeah. Why not? I'll slide in. There is a duty of care, I'll say, that you have with you, Greg. I get it, man. I get it. And you're a father. I understand, So you realistically, you will have to do that, because you're looking after your family. The flip side of that is, yes, you're going to have sort of, say emotionally, but I'm going to say it's a duty of care property that you've got to put forward. You're going to make sure that it's appropriate for your son to be able to live in that house safely. When we talk about ensuring your kid's future is secure, post that, though, that is through the wealth creation. And it really is. It's like flipping a coin, effectively. One side of the coin, we're always going to stick our money with our mind, make sure we make smart financial decisions, build properties in the right locations that yield good income to have sustained capital growth, and we're putting our money with our mind. But then we're going to have our motive, the things that you like, that you need to support your life, and your life is different to everybody else. So, for example, Dan is in a different house to what I live into, which is Simo, right? The three of those are probably not the greatest investments in a way, but they're stuff that suits us individually. But then when we go hunting and we look at stuff to build wealth, we're always then looking at it number. What's the numbers? Tell me the numbers. I want to know the numbers. Because in the end, to secure their future, you need good investments, right? We don't want to go and overcapitalise on something because we're like, for this location and thing. They need to be smart, diligent decisions, whereas your own home is not going to be that in a way. Like if you paint the roof red, fucking go and do that, What about you, Simo?
Yeah, a lot of unknown elements to that question, so it's hard to give a very exact answer, but the comment there, 10 years left in the Defence Force, unless you're in a sort of a role or position there where you're not going to get posted out within that 10 years, the benefit of building a house there for yourself and your son to live in might be negated if you get posted within the next 2 to 4, 6 years or whatever it's going to be. Dan's out. So without knowing the exact situation there is that element there. If you are going to be staying in that location and that posting locality, then as Dane said and Dan have said there, it's a lifestyle decision, but it's one that's going to allow you to live in a house that's suitable for yourself and your son. And I know that can be an extremely powerful and comforting thing to have in your life, to have that certainty and the comfort levels within your own home. Agree totally with Dane's comments there as well about ensuring your kid's future. Is having a house for yourself and him to live in securing that future, or are those funds potentially used in a better investment location to secure his future that way? So much deeper conversations than what we can have just in this 5 to 10 minutes here. But either way you go, it's going to come down to your comfortability and what you want to achieve.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Can I just make a call? Hey, Greg, can you just go out, buddy? Go to our Axon Facebook page, click the Get Started button there. Just type a message with your phone number, please, buddy. One of us will give you a call tomorrow. We just want to talk through what we met and probably be able to give you some more directed advice when we've got a two-way conversation going on.
Yeah, it is a bit difficult when we're just in this forum because you've got a lot of factors at play there, man. A lot of factors at play. So I think we had Will Grigor, you legend. He is all over the chat. Dan, if only you could see it. But,
mate, so the good news. So, Will, you just need to keep it up, mate. I can see you've said happy birthday, Jen, but that's about all I can see at the moment is from that point onwards. So I've got it from 1900 on.
We've got a couple
more. All right. So we'll go with this one then. So, Simo, one more question. If you get medically discharged, do you retain your tier level?
The good news is that if you do have a medical discharge and it's a compensable, I think that's the word, compensable injury, then you do actually have some additional benefit that you don't have there than what all the rest of it, or everyone else does. So the good news is that not only do you retain your tier level based on the number of years you've served, when you do take out your DOHAS subsidy, your loan and your subsidy, you no longer have that 4 years of qualifying period taken off of your years of service or your subsidy time period as well. So, for example, if you've served 10 years, you then go to take out your DOHAS loan to get your subsidy. You don't just get it at 6 years, which is 4 years for your qualifying and then 6 years of subsidy. You actually get the full 10 years of your service as a subsidy at your current tier level as well. So it's one of the good things that DOHAS does have if it is a medical discharge, but for compensable injury. Compensable? Whatever.
You're a walking Pac-Man.
I've read it a couple of times.
And just to take clarity out of that, Simo, when it goes down to the actual application of that, we know that if you've discharged out further in the normal processes, you only get to grab your one certificate after discharge, right?
Yeah, same.
What about for medical personnel? Are they able to get?
In general, yes, you still do have to take out that DOHAS loan within 5 years. However, there is a caveat in there that said something along the lines of, if for some reason you weren't able to take out a loan to build your house within that 5 years because of your injury or your compensable injury, then you can redress that and you may still be able to take out that DOHAS loan with those med discharge benefits as well.
Yeah. I think that's the same thing that Matt Ryle is just alluding to there, requesting a waiver if you've passed your period.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. All over it, mate. You and Matt Riley are like, you must be thick as thieves, mate. You managed to bloody come up with exactly the same response at the same time. So that's bloody
great. Good. I think I saw Matt respond to even Dom's question there before. Spot on again, mate. I helped a few people. Nice. Spot on, mate. DOHAS is for buying your own property. But if you meet the criteria and you move out within that 12 months or after that 12 months or so, then you've basically got an investment property with the DOHAS subsidy still being paid on it as well.
On the gravy train, as you like to call it, Simo.
Yeah.
Well, it just gives you that third or fourth source of income, right? Because if you go get a property under your DOHAS, then you move out, get your rent return, still get your tax return because it's an investment property now, get your DOHAS return on it, and then if you've got solar installed, then you get a solar return too. That sucker is paying itself off when you're going through the investment channel once you've been able to convert it.
Multiple forms of income. Absolutely. What else, fellas? What else has been going on? I think we've pumped a lot of questions. Mainly Simo.
Got Dane's comment there. Hey, Dane, how's it going, mate? Hey, guys, better late than never. It's Jen's birthday today, so got to look after her first. Say happy birthday to Jen for us, mate, and glad that you can still make it on the call as well.
Absolutely.
Happy to be part of the birthday celebrations.
Well, depends who you are from that perspective. We'll be able to. Suppose one other little public service announcement that we were talking about that I need our community feedback from as well is at the moment Axon is looking at planning a trip down to Adelaide. So I find Noah, can you find the exact dates that we're looking at being down there, potentially on that Saturday and Sunday, please? But I need to know community, if we're at Adelaide over this weekend, are you available to come out and have a cheeky little beverage with us and be able to catch up with a few of the select Axon crew who are going to be down there? Because we're starting to put together a visit, but if there's not going to be if there's not going to be enough people turning up, then we'll make sure we've sorted out a bit of bang for the buck from that perspective and whether we put the event on. So if you can put those dates up, please, Noah, and the weekly newsletter is the 7th of June. If you're in Adelaide or you're around 5th to the 7th of June, please just drop Noah a quick note or a quick email and say, yep, we're going to be around Adelaide over that period of time. We'd love to catch up for a beer.
The Milky Bars will be on us, won't they, Dan? And one thing I like Benny Hinton throwing up there is Dave's dogs, mate. I think they went up earlier in the chat, got no love. Yeah. So you might have to give a shameless plug to that.
Dave's
to that prosperous business you got going.
Yeah. because I was a dog handler for 17 of my 21 years, I've got a little bit of knowledge there. So I have created a website and a Facebook page there. Just Google Dave's Dogs. The intent for ages, bloody Dan and Dane keep me pretty busy, so I haven't really been able to do this. But the intent is to eventually get some online dog training courses and things like that. But at the moment, it's pretty much just cute dogs and memes, so and some general dog training stuff as well. So yeah, have a look at Facebook. Oh, there it is. Thanks,
look at
bloody brilliant, like Simo, just with the idea, just with your dog training and stuff like that. Can we double back on to have a bit of a chat about? I suppose I just wanted to explore exact dog, like how, like, just tell us how the training went for her, she performed, and how it was. Because I mean, you had her throughout life, right, until she back to Australia. But like, can you just give us a bit of an insight about Sarbi and the story behind the story, I suppose, mate? Because Sarbi is a pretty big part of that.
Yeah. We had Sarbi and her brother both come to us at the same time, recruited at the same time in 2015. So they had slightly different names in as well. It was Rafiki and Sarbi from The Lion King. But that was a little bit hard to say during training, so we shortened both of them to Rafi and Sarbi. But Sarbi and Rafi both, Sarbi more so, I think, were frantic retrievers of like tennis balls, which is the prey drive which we look for when we're seeking out dogs who become detection dogs. We want them to be able to go out and be able to search an area for 40 minutes to an hour non-stop, because they know at the end of that, for the training anyway, at the end of that training, when they find that scent that they've been trained on, they're going to get to retrieve that tennis ball. So having an extremely strong prey drive like that is extremely important. And Sarbi had such a strong prey drive that it was quite easy to train her in that aspect, because she would do absolutely anything for a tennis ball. If there wasn't a tennis ball available, she would pick up a stick or a leaf or a rock or anything that was laying around, and she'd place it on your foot, so you would throw it for her. So yeah, she was so easy to train. I talked about this a little bit during the other podcasts as well. The bond, when you work with a dog, when you train a dog, you spend a lot more time with it than you do with a pet dog in that certain aspect. But it wasn't until I finished my training, and for people that haven't heard the podcast, funny little story, once we'd finished our training, we'd gone outfield to do some exercises, and there was one day there where we were doing night patrols and things like that, and looking after pickets. So it was our platoon's turn for pickets that night. I'd gone to sleep, knew the roster, but when it came turn for someone to come and wake me up for my turn at picket, Sarbi stood up and growled at them, and wouldn't let them come closer to me to actually wake up and do my picket. So I didn't hear her growling, or maybe I didn't, I just pretended to be asleep. But they didn't come any closer to wake me up, so I actually missed out on my picket that night. But it was about that time, living and working and training with Sarbi 24/7 for like 2 or 3 weeks, whatever it was. That's when our bond really solidified, and I could move with her and train with her pretty much as one. If anyone's got a dog that's really attuned to them, they'll understand what I mean by that.
Wow.
So that was like in the lead up, you created that bond. I suppose it's touched on a little bit in the podcast, but how was she then when she? I love the story of Sarbi, but I'll be a little bit crassy. When she went and got fat with the Taliban, because she got fed very, very well as a war trophy, right? Then she came back to you a bit of a chunky monkey. How was she from a training perspective after she came back there?
Mate, I was really, really surprised at how responsive and how well she retained her training. I had deployed again after that 2008 deployment in 2010. So she was in TK when I deployed again with my new dog. So I actually got to see her there before she went off and started her quarantine protocols to get back home. And I took her out for a few training sessions, just little searches, just to see how she went. And I shit you not, she was actually working better than the dog that I deployed with after being missing for 14 months.
It makes me wonder how well our property specialists are being trained. If you bloody can't train a new dog as well as you train Sarbi.
I didn't train the new dog. I just got teamed with them, so I can't claim the training for that one.
I was Simo's Sarbi of property specialists, man.
Yeah, they're all called Sarbi, all of them. Adam Sarbi, James Sarbi.
They can all have Sarbi's last name, mate. Little training wheels come off.
Yeah.
There you go, Benny Hinton, mate. He wants you to come down and teach his dog how to growl at the kids when they try and wake him up on the weekends. And Shay Lowe, Shay jumps online, the superstar solicitor from a conveyancing perspective that all of our clients know and love. There, Dave definitely trained me 100%. So Simo, you've obviously had a bit of an impact on Shay as well, because like it's a very symbiotic relationship that you as a property specialist have between yourself and the solicitor, and especially with the broker as our clients go through the entire journey, right? You've got a very two-way relationship there where you're trying to help each other out.
Working with the solicitors and the service professionals that are required in acquiring property, so the solicitors and the brokers especially, they all have their own systems and processes. And the beautiful thing with working with Shay and Ramsden Law is that they had their systems in place and their processes in place. But then when we came along and met them, you do, Shay, you do tell me this every time we meet, we catch up. There were efficiencies which could be created just by changing some of those processes when we work together. By creating these efficiencies and merging our systems, or not our systems, but our processes, we were able to streamline the process so that it was extremely smooth when clients come in and select to work with Shay as a conveyancing solicitor. And we often see it, if somebody comes in and they want to bring their own solicitor because it's a family lawyer that their family works with, or if it's just someone that they may have selected themselves, they're not privy to the hours and hours of conversations that Shay and I have had about the process. So things are quite a bit clunkier and harder, and things that take with Shay less than 24 hours can take longer than a week with someone if they're bringing in their own solicitor, because they don't know the process, they don't know what is expected. And I don't think anyone apart from Shay works with quite the diligence and the fervour that we do as well.
Yeah, I like to refer to that as like the glue that blends everything together, because you can have all the bricks put around, right? So you've got the broker, you got the solicitor, you got Axon, you got your account and everything like that. And you've got all these bricks of the house to be put together. But I tell you what, if you just stack bricks on top of each other, unless you have the glue, which is your processes and your relationships and your communication on top of that, the whole thing's going to fall down pretty bloody quickly from that perspective.
Yeah, that's right.
I think the communication, and when I was a property specialist, I had two clients that came through who brought their own solicitor, and it was fucking shit. It wasn't that good. Or I remember one contract waiting for 7 weeks for a reply or a return, and like Dave just said, 24 hours with the great Shay. And it really is. It's. I want to sit there and this person's great, but it is so much more seamless that when we do get one, it sticks out like the old dogs effectively. They're going like. They don't know the process. They won't give you information that, and it suddenly, the client is having a terrible experience with it. And realistically, all we can do is say, hey, look, we're trying our best at this, but mate, you use the people we use, because in the end, it's going to make your experience fucking enhanced. Like that's easy. So
yeah. Well, I know that RT, like on the flip side, you got brokers and people that want to work directly with the bank. I mean, I know Robbie's got a person at the moment who's like, hey, I really want to go directly to the bank to figure out if I can get a better deal on this. And it was like, okay, we'll let that run for a little while from RT's perspective. And we are now, like, for those of you who have worked with Deb, you know that when she gets in contact with you and you ask her for a borrowing capacity to find out how much money you can borrow, then guess what? You get a response back from Deb in like 24 to 48 hours from that perspective. This gentleman has gone down to the local branch of his, I don't know, NAB, CBA, whatever branch he's talking about there. He's asked them to provide him with what his borrowing capacity would be. And they've been holding on to that information for the last 4.5 weeks. 4 weeks to turn around and assess his circumstances and go, hey, man, you can probably borrow about this point in time. Oh, and by the way, once you come back and actually apply for the loan, we'll have to go through all of this in actual detail. So, I mean, it's just there's a reason that people are professionals. There's a reason why mortgage brokers exist is because there's been a gap that hasn't been able to be filled by a lot of other people in the market to be able to provide that level of service. There you go. Shay scored an A++ from us. Shay is a superstar. Kent Herman, do you even know how to use hashtags, mate? Hashtag. Look at you go, mate. You're more of a tech user than I am. So there you go. Debbie Rosberg getting some high fives from Shay. There's certainly some love in the room from those ladies tonight. So that's bloody brilliant.
Right.
What else is going on there?
So I think too, when we did, as you were saying that, Dan, there's shit people in every profession. There's shit solicitors, there's shit accountants, there's shit fucking doctors, well, whatever. In the end, so once you get a good group together, you look after them, you keep them close, and that's who you. So it always baffles my brain. So like when I went and got our forever home in a way, I didn't have to think. I'm just like Shay, Deb. I could pretty much just do a three-way phone call with them because I know straight away I'm going to get the best service from them. I don't have to sit there and go, I had a Dolomites with Commonwealth Bank when I was a kid, and my mum's fucking banking with Heritage, and knows someone. Like, why go through that pain? Because in the end, you're introducing an outsider effectively. It's like being a new guy to school, coming in and everyone's staring at them going, like, what's this guy about? So it's the same sort of thing. Thing.
Mate, I did see a couple of weeks ago, though, that Dolomites are being kicked out of the schools these days.
Are they?
Yeah, Dolomites will be no more up here in Queensland, I believe it was. They were found to not be providing a great service or a reasonable outcome for those people. So there you go.
Well, thank you, Dave, because I was about to say something else. I realised how that would have sounded on this. I'm like, that's got nothing to do with service.
Yeah, you know what? Who knows where this conversation is going to defer down to anyway. What else is going on in your world, Simo? I know we've only got you here for a few more minutes, mate. So I just sort of want to deep dive into what you've been seeing out there around the place, like especially when it comes to, I don't know, what you're seeing from a property acquisition perspective, how hard it is to be able to fight for those blocks of land, and just sort of, this is the stuff that you eat and breathe every single day. This is your primary role, right? Like, what are you seeing out there? Can you give the rest of the world a bit more context?
Yeah, Benny, Dane, that's bullshit, mate. Thank you, Chris. Just being in constant contact with the builders and the developers, and just seeing the extended timeframes that we're seeing for being able to secure land is just phenomenal. It sort of reminds me of what we used to see down in Melbourne a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago or thereabouts, where land registration timeframes were so far out because there was such a more interest, such a high interest in some of those areas that we've down there as well. We're seeing that now here in Queensland over the last 12 months, or 8 to 12 months or so, because of everything that has been happening with home builder and the grants and everything, which has encouraged a lot of people to jump in to the housing market. With home builder grants now finished, and you're not able to submit any new home builder grants, and the developers got their wheels spinning, and they got some traction, and they're developing a lot of land quicker than what they were. So in some instances, bringing on years worth of land within a matter of months from what they intended to do. I think we may see a little bit of a slowdown with the number of people buying these blocks. So the tide will, it probably will take a few months before we start seeing a little bit of difference, but I do expect to see less people fighting for the blocks that we're trying to secure in the very best estates for our clients as well. So I do expect to see some easing up and making it a little bit easier for us to secure land. But right at this point in time and over the last 12 months, it has been a very hard fight to secure these lots. And anyone that we have secured a lot for, I would be extremely surprised if any one of them were able to actually secure anything in sort of the regions that we have.
Absolutely. And I mean, I tend to agree with you, Simo. I think over the next few months, we'll see a little bit more of a plateauing and the world getting a bit more reasonable over the next few months. But the thing that I'm extremely excited for and just a little bit afraid actually is when those international borders do once again open up in from May 2022, I think is what they were loosely speaking about last night on the budget, where they've said we're going to reopen the borders to another 200,000 people to start flooding back into Australia. And they're also going to increase the amount of visas that are available for those high-skilled workers internationally. And I know, Dane, you were talking the other day about someone that's sitting over in the UK at the moment that's turning around and going how good does Australia look during COVID? And this is lawyers, doctors, all of these other different professionals, engineers, and all these types of people that are earning bucket loads of cash, and they'll come here highly skilled up, ready to come in. They'll cash out their house in inner city London, come to Australia and be like, where do I now go and lay the rest of my cash over here in Australia because it looked so bloody good during COVID? So holy shit, wait out for the next 18 months or so and we'll see exactly how that works. But I think it's one of those things that it's going to be a really highly sought after commodity property in Australia from that perspective when we get such a large amount of international migration kicking back on again.
Yeah, that's going to be phenomenal.
Just another wave.
Yeah.
What it's come from. So I remember when COVID first came and people going, and it happens every year, 30% decline in property prices and all that sort of stuff. And you'd be mad to go into it. And all those people who did risk it for the biscuit have come out looking fucking amazing, right? And those naysayers are another 12 months on, still not in the market, and it's even getting harder to get into. So they always say the best time to buy a property was yesterday. Isn't that right, Simo? As you want to say.
Absolutely. Those people that are sort of sitting on the sidelines, seeing how COVID went, they're now another, if they want to get the same properties, 60, 70, 80 grand in some cases, behind the eight ball even further back. So, once we get this little bit of a plateau, I think with the end of the grants, and as Dan put forward there, once the borders reopen again, because the international migration was almost on par. It's pretty much on par with the births and deaths in Australia. So we're going to see quite a lot of people coming back in. People don't realise how many people actually do come in through the borders, in the hundreds of thousands.
Yep. So, and why wouldn't you when you see how well Australia's fared? So when I was talking to Dan actually last week, so I've got a couple of mates who are over in Europe. I've got a mate who works at Macquarie Bank actually over there. He's gone over, he's a client liaison, bloody rep or relations or whatever. And he just said to me, he goes, mate, as soon as I'm fucking coming straight back, and he goes, I've had my big working coming over, living in London for 3 years and all that sort of stuff. And he goes, it's been, peppered with being stuck at home. And he goes, and every time I look on Instagram or Facebook, I see all my mates at the beach. He goes, as soon as we can come back through the door, we'll be coming back through. And I think that's a lot of people's sentiment at the moment. And, people who are looking at and going I want to immigrate to Australia because look how fucking good. Because we run around when we get one case. Shit, lock down the city. Apparently there was a guy at Macca's, and we're a real witch hunt. Whereas look at India at the moment. Hundreds of thousands of people, it just blows your mind. And when you say that, Dan, people coming back in, us opening up to, the masses outside of the borders, what's that's going to look like for us? Because, if you go by the news, sometimes I look at it and I think, holy shit, we must be far away from that still.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
We'll wait and see what the world has in store for us. But for tonight, we're rolling in at 7:30. But Simo, I just want to give you a special last shout out, mate. Thank you very much for being able to join us tonight, mate. I know that, mate, it used to be that you seemed to be online every single night doing this type of stuff. But here we are a couple of years later, mate, and you're leading a very, very important part of the Axon capability, mate. So thank you very much for all the hard efforts you put in there and sharing your story with about Sarbi as well during the podcast, mate. It was an absolute ripper session there.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm always happy to share that story because I know that a lot of people do not just hear the story, but they get a lot out of it as well.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right, Noah, shut us down. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Dane. I'll speak to you all next week. Bye.
See you later.